We are glad that you all have chimed in and even more are with us this evening. My name is Tim Cole and I'm with Waypoint Church Partners, and we're glad that you've joined us this evening. I'm going to close this box out right there. And Waypoint has started these webinars about 3 years ago to provide ministry-related conversations once a month in 55 minutes or less. And each month it's a different ministry team that we try and equip and resource as best we can from around the region. And so some months that will be for elders or missions team or prayer teams or youth volunteers or worship volunteers, just a wide range. First impressions, we do quite a bit. But this one, this evening, is for new realities in children's ministry related to the COVID season that we're in. Not that we're out of it yet, and we don't even know how far through it we are. We hope that we're past halfway, but at this point, we really still don't know. But it has changed the way we think about children's ministry, not only for now, but as we transition to some semblance of a new normal, children's ministry will have changed a little bit, just like every other area of the church as well. And so we've got 3 panelists on the webinar with us tonight from 3 states and 3 different sized churches, one a little bit more than 200, one well more than 500, one more than 800 in North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. And I forget the number when we discussed this earlier, how many years of children's ministry combined, but probably 50 or 60 years of children's ministry among the panel. So just a lot of good wisdom to hear what they're doing currently at their churches and planning on for the future, and hopefully helping you to think ahead about how you can be prepared for the new reality that's coming. Of course, that's all going to change, I think, in just the next couple of weeks as schools regather, those that are regathering, or the ones that don't, and there's stay at home, but then there's opportunities to do group things at churches or in other places. We're going to be seeing new realities of how we're engaging the kids during the week, which will be a clue for what we're able to do in children's ministry as well. So we're right in a very timely moment to be able to figure out how can we best serve our kids. And one of the things that we figured out early on as COVID started is we just can't take this season off spiritually, that we can't just take 6 months off and then get restarted, that people's faith journeys are still active. And actually this is a great season to try and challenge people to make faith decisions and significant faith steps during this time that will be maybe more significant than other times. And that would be true of our kids as well, that we can't just kind of, in spite of the fact that we're up to this point, not many have regathered, the kids ministry in particular, kids still need their faith developed through a process. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. And we're glad that we've got Lynn Miller from First Christian Church Ministries in Kernersville, North Carolina. And then we've got Lauren Patman from the Church of Christ at Manor Woods in Rockville, Maryland, and Kara Simpkins from the Journey Church in Springfield, Virginia. And they are joining us tonight. But before we do that, as always, I want to give thanks to our sponsor for our webinar platform, which is Mid-Atlantic Christian University. I've got a slide for them and a couple other things, but Mid-Atlantic Christian University has been our partner since we began this series more than 3 years ago, and we're thankful for the partnership that we have with them in the same region, the Mid-Atlantic area, serving churches and leaders in some significant ways to help churches get on mission and stay on mission. When we became Waypoint Church Partners in the merger of 2 groups, the Virginia Evangelizing Fellowship and Envision in North Carolina, we had this tagline, because Waypoint is a navigational term. Our tagline that we use often is navigating ministry together. And we did not know then, 5 years ago, how much of a reroute of ministry that everyone would be navigating this year in 2020. And so it's never been more true for us that together, even on this webinar tonight, that we're trying to navigate ministry together with all the twists and turns of the journey that we're on. And so what I'd like to do right now is take a couple of polls but also tell you that at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button that if you're not familiar with webinars, if you think of a question for any of our panelists this evening, type it in as soon as you think of it. because you may forget it later. And we get it in a queue over on the side of our screen. And we will try and answer that question either at about that time at the first pause or at the end of our session this evening. And if we're not able to get to it this evening, we get an automated email that shows us all the questions that were asked, and we can answer them within the next couple of days. There will be an automated email that goes out in the next tomorrow, and in that automated email there will be some links to documents that are referred to this evening, and the email addresses of our presenters. If you'd like to ask one of them a specific question, we'll give you those as well. And so you can look for that automated email tomorrow. I'd also like to let you know that we do have a YouTube channel of all of the webinars that we have done for the last 3 years. And if you were to search Waypoint 55, all one word, on YouTube, you'd go to our channel, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you'd be notified every time a new webinar gets posted. There are a couple other children's and youth webinars as well that are in playlists on our page. And so you can click on that playlist and see just the children's and youth webinars that you may be interested in that we've done previously. I asked our panelists just some simple questions that they could prepare their minds for to share with you all this evening. And so the first question is really kind of a softball pitch question, underhanded, and let them kind of go around the horn. They don't know what order they're in, so I'll call them by name. But the first question I like to ask is, most churches are in some kind of rhythm pre-COVID for doing children's ministry, whether it's the programming on Sunday morning or the programming we do event-driven throughout the year and other things like that. And then COVID put a halt to several things. And so the question is, what are some of the things that we used to do pre-COVID that we're probably not going to be able to do in children's ministry any longer once we regather? And so things have changed. And as far as we know, for the immediate future and even midterm future, some things are just no longer in play. And Lynn, you're first in my box. I'll ask you first. What are some of the things that you're experiencing there at First Christian Church in Kernersville that you're just not going to be doing anymore as your kids have already regathered?
Well, the whole scope is different. Number one, we don't have as many children. You have to think through all the toy situation, the checking in, checking out, just everything is very much different. And people are afraid. They're afraid to come back. We have typically, over 50 kids in the preschool area, and now we have 8. So I'm still trying to figure out what it's going to look like. But we've thought through a lot of procedures, a lot of, even though we don't anticipate preschoolers to be to social distance, our elementary minister has things in place that will keep the kids 6 feet apart most of the time, mostly games, not toys, just not things that they're touching. I guess we just can't take that for granted anymore. The rooms have to look different, they have to be set up differently without as many toys and games and stuff that they'll touch. So we've thought that through, and like I said, at this moment in time, we don't have that many kids coming, so it hasn't been that hard to do. Even with traffic flow, trying to get parents to be 6 feet apart and just reminding them, not to come into the rooms and stay out. So I basically am thinking more about the parents distancing than the kids, especially for preschoolers.
Yeah. So just as our one point of reference, if you're less than 20% of your kids have returned so far. Mm-hmm. And so that would be something interesting for those who are with us on our webinar tonight to think about, is how does that change your programming when you would only have 20% of your kids? Your volunteer base in some ways doesn't change. You still need volunteers in the room, but in some ways it does if you're not going to need quite as many volunteers. It's pretty critical that we've discovered is that you poll your volunteers to find out which volunteers are comfortable coming back. And we just assume all your volunteers are ready to go and teach kids again, and that is not necessarily the case. Well, Kara, you're next on my list here. What are some of the things that you would think that we used to do pre-COVID that we're just not going to be able to do anymore, or at least the way we used to do it?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, our church was running 150 to 170 kids in birth through sixth grade in our children's ministry on a Sunday morning. That was split up between 3 different services, and we were racking our brains beginning of March trying to figure out how to enforce capping our maximum number of kids in each classroom. So we were coming up with creative ways to invite parents to come to different service times when their child's age group classroom was probably not as full. So we went from that to just a screeching halt to the point where we have no children's ministry programs going on right now. Our church is still closed. The county that we live in, the public schools have decided just last week to go ahead and reopen virtually only in the fall. So we're kind of taking our cues from them. So something that we won't have to worry about or plan for are maximum capacity kids in each classroom on Sunday mornings. And our plan is when we do reopen our children's ministry is that we will follow the CDC guidelines for social distancing. So as far as keeping everybody 6 feet apart, we're going to go from having 20 kids max in each classroom with 3 volunteers to only allowing 6 to 8 kids and only 2 volunteers in each classroom. So that's going to look a lot different. Right now it's all hypothetical because we haven't actually experienced it like Lynn has, but that's kind of what we're planning. As far as the regathering that you were talking about and the poll you did for the family-friendly services, that's kind of what we're brainstorming about right now. And that's the direction we're going to go, is have family inclusive services when we first reopen. So families will have to pre-register in advance so we know what age kids they're going to have with them when they come in on a Sunday morning. And our plan is to create like age-specific activity bags so that when the parents check in, we'll be able to give their child an activity bag that is specific for their age, something that could keep them entertained and occupied during the service time. And one of the things we're really excited about is we have a church app that has the links for all of the kids' weekly lesson videos. So we're going to pass out earbuds in their activity bags, with the idea being when the senior pastor gets ready to start the sermon time, he'll invite parents to go ahead and get out their iPads or their phones, plug in the earbuds, and click the link for their kids to sit and watch their lesson video. So it will be somewhat quiet, and they can be engaged and listening and learning while the adults are listening to the sermon time. So that's kind of the direction we're headed right now. But as everybody else, things just continue to change and evolve day to day, not just week to week.
That's right. Yeah. 1 week is a long time for us. I was in a church yesterday, preached at a church in Southwest Virginia, and a little granddaughter had her grandma's phone while I was preaching, and she dialed 911 and put it on a speakerphone. So the sheriff's office was talking to everybody in her section of the auditorium while I was preaching. And so I had to stop, wait for it to get everyone's attention back, hoping that the police didn't show up at our service in a few minutes. But so having a creative way to keep kids occupied in a way that still provides some kind of lesson for them is a great idea. I really like that. And the age graded part of it as well. The church that I was at in Williamsburg a couple weeks ago had the kids, the family tables in the other room, but as they registered the gender and age of their kids. And so there were age and gender specific activities ready for the kids when they arrived. And I thought that was really smart. Well, Lauren, what about you guys at Church of Christ at Manor Woods there in Rockville, Maryland? What are some of the things that children's ministry used to look like pre-COVID that really now it's all changed?
Yeah, there's so many of them, more than, we'll even have time to get into. Before, I do have a few little practical things I want to share, but first I just wanted to say, and I think this just covers the whole discussion tonight. Isaiah is one of my very favorite books in the Bible, and I feel like no matter what's happening in life, there's something in Isaiah that's going to encourage or convict. And I was flipping through it, just kind of praying over this webinar earlier, and a phrase just jumped out at me in Isaiah 57 verse 15. It says, that our Lord is the God who inhabits eternity. And that stood out to me so much at this time, because we really are feeling like we've lost the ability to do so many things, and all these procedures we had and all this fun stuff, and you know, it feels like it's gone away or it's changed. But our God inhabits eternity, not time limits. COVID-19 does not affect God's plans at all, and it doesn't limit God. So I think just for me, I'm really trying to keep that mindset. Things might have to change, some things go away, but God's plan is not altered and he is not limited. So with that being said, our church, our children's ministry is not going to be regathering this fall. Like Kara, our public schools are remaining closed, so we are as well. But we've been thinking through, when we do regather with our kids, what are some things that will not be able to be the same? And a few little procedural things that are going to look different will be, for example, snack time, which seems little to us, but to our little children, snack time is a really big deal. Pre-COVID, in our nursery and our preschool classes, snack time was sort of like that time during the service block when everybody sits at the table, we pray together, we pass out little goldfish in cups, and we just talk about what our week was like. It's relaxed, kids laugh, they smile, they share, and that will not be able to be a part anymore of our service hour. So I'm thinking what we'll want to do is to replace snack time with something else that provides the kids a chance to just sort of decompress. Those who are having trouble separating from parents, something else to replace snack time that they can look forward to for entering the classroom. And it might be that we come up with like a classroom theme song or welcome song. It might be like a really fun video, maybe a song with some dancing in it that we can play. It might be a special circle time game. But I want to come up with something like that to replace what snack time was pre-COVID that we can do safely. And another just small practical aspect that we could do pre-COVID and can't do anymore will be shared supplies and toys. So what I will be doing once we are able to regather is we'll be putting together supply bags for each child. They'll go in the kids' cubbies with the children's names. So we have, my colleague found, I don't know if you can see it very well. It says, love God and love one another. She found these really cute bags. So it'll be something like that, which will have the supplies for each child so that we don't have to worry about sharing supplies. For preschoolers, we're not going to be able to have all the toys out that we used to have when we regather. So in their bags, we're going to need to put individual sets of toys, maybe some building blocks, some Play-Doh, for sure some crayons and coloring pages, because that is going to be a major change. All the big toy area in our preschool is going to be very limited. So those are some of the small practical things that our team has been thinking through of how to do things when we do regather. And then another thing that's going to have to shift is our perspective. So for this, it just made me laugh. A little while back, all the kids in our neighborhood had been playing together. Like some of the kids are finally able to come out of their houses and run around and play again. But it's different than it used to be. And so the kids in our neighborhood came up with this coronavirus tag. So instead of the normal way to do tag, whoever is it, if they get within 6 feet of another child, that child is tagged and they're it. And it just made me smile because I thought, kids aren't going to give up tag, but it's got to look different now. And so how can we have that same kind of perspective in children's ministry? And one of the areas that I've been talking over with my team is being able to show affection and encouragement to children. Because pre-COVID, you know, kids, especially the younger ones, they like to give their friends hugs. You know, a crying child might be comforted by a teacher's hug or encouraged by a pat on the back. You know, you have even the elementary school girls, they love to sit like arms over each other's shoulders, all buddy-buddy. And that's gonna have to change. So we've been talking about ways that we can teach our children maybe some some little signs to show affection. If you want to tell your friend, I love you, instead of a hug, can you make a heart in the air? And for teachers, what are ways that we can provide the comfort and encouragement without the physical touch? So yeah, so those are just some of the little things that we've been talking over.
All right. I'm curious, between Kara and Lynn, your all plans for snack time as well. And Lynn, you've already regathered. So how are you doing snack time compared to
Well, we're
pre-COVID?
doing it right now. I'm not sure that that's scientific. I don't know that there's a reason not to do snack time.
Mhm.
But for right now, we're not doing it. And we're just not doing anything in its place. Just
All
having
right.
their lesson.
So
And,
we need to sell all of our stock in Goldfish Company
right.
because of that. And Kara, what are you guys planning at the Journey as far as snacks?
Yeah, I already went into all the classrooms and removed all of our goldfish, and we had veggie straws because we had some gluten-free kids. So I stopped that ongoing order on Amazon, and we're no longer going to be able to allow snacks in our classrooms either. And similar to what Lauren was saying, we've gone into each of our classrooms, and especially the early childhood rooms where we just had shelves and shelves of toys for the kids to go in and access and play with. We've separated those into service specific bins. So each classroom has 3 bins, 1 bin of toys for each service. We've taken all the toys off the shelves. So there will be a bin of clean toys for the kids to play with during that service time. And then instead of trying to clean those and have them ready for the next group of kids, we have another bin of clean toys out and ready. So we'll just, at the end of each Sunday, lay all of the toys out on the tables or on the floor and spray them down and sanitize them, and then divide them up into their 3 bins again for the next Sunday. So yeah, it's lots of things that we never had to think about before that we're going to have to learn how to implement to keep everybody safe and healthy.
Are you going to encourage kids or parents to package their own snacks for their kids, or just no snacks at all?
Just no snacks at all.
No snacks.
All right.
Same for us, as allergy concerns are all, like if people bring their own snack, you have to think about allergies.
Yeah. I'll bring my jar of peanut butter with me. So, well, let me ask another question kind of related to this, then I want to move on, but we didn't talk about this previously. Your non-Sunday morning big event programs, has any of your team started thinking about what's the first Saturday morning, or whenever you would do it, your big shebang that you used to do, or is pretty much that's just all not even in consideration right now? Chime in, anybody that'd like to chime in there.
What was that you said again, Tim? I couldn't understand you.
Yeah, some kind of large event. Most children's ministry have 2 or 3 big things per year. Whether it's VBS, but you're a big water games day or whatever it is. Are you planning on anything yet, or starting to think about it, or is it pretty much just let's not even talk about it yet?
I can answer that. We were planning to have Vacation Bible School up until the day before, and we had to pull the plug at the last minute. It was supposed to start August 3rd, and we really wanted to do in-person VBS. So, but because of our association with another campus, another church, our sister church, or the church that we started, they had a couple of cases of COVID in their preschool, their weekday preschool. So we had to, we felt like with the communication between the 2 campuses that we should probably not have VBS. So we had to cancel it the last minute. And so right now there's nothing planned for the rest of the year as far as big events. But personally, I'm going to plan smaller events for like Sunday school classes and that type of thing, outdoor activities when it gets cooler. It's been really hot here. So I think, in the fall, we'll be able to do some stuff outside and get the kids to come back on campus and stay outside. So.
All right. Kara or Lauren, any big events that you're planning, or just it's all on hold?
I can share a little bit. We do have some events that we're doing very carefully, following all safety guidelines. My colleague, Mavrin Cooper, actually took on the big task of planning a VBS that we could actually do during these times. So she's worked really hard on that. And the way it works is the VBS is running for the whole month of August. And each week she emails out sort of a family devotional with a particular theme. So the first week we just finished, the theme was prayer. So every night of the week, she had some suggested readings, activities that families could do together at home. And then every weekend we have some sort of a, like a service type of project that families can opt to either do from home if they feel more comfortable, or there's some way to do it outside at our church building. So for example, this last one that we just did this weekend was a 24-hour prayer vigil, and families could participate at home in the prayer vigil, or you could go to the church parking lot and pray there with your family, just one family unit at a time. So each weekend in August, there's something like that. We have some service projects planned that people can really do if they feel comfortable in person, they can do that, or just from home. And then the rest of our team, we've been planning a couple of small events. We have like a bike rodeo that we're doing in September, where it's going to be limited to a certain number of reservations and it'll be outdoors. And we did a neighborhood cleanup at the end of July and an outdoor movie evening. I guess that was also in July. So some things like that we can really keep outside. You have to pre-register, so we limit the numbers, and just making sure we're following all the CDC guidelines.
All right. Kara, how about you guys at the Journey?
Yeah, so typically in the summer, we partner with Chick-fil-A Swim Shape camps and host one of those for our elementary and middle school kids. And those were completely shut down for this summer. So that was disappointing, but understandable. So we were inspired after the Waypoint pop-up webinar about different ways we can minister to our families during COVID and the virtual back to school year starting up. And we are getting ready to do a virtual back to school drive-through event. So we know a lot of families and kids especially are feeling a little unsure about what this school year is going to be like. So we just want to drum up some excitement and celebrate them a little bit with the beginning of the school year getting ready to start. So we are inviting people from the church that don't have kids to come out and wave, hold up posters, cheer for the kids. We're going to pass out pool noodles that they can wave, cowbells, and then we're packaging up age-specific virtual school survival kits. So different things that the kids will need for their virtual school year. And we're going to have those for students and then also for parents and then also for teachers. Just let people know we care about them. We haven't forgotten about them. We're hoping it'll be a way for the families to drive through, load up their kids and drive through, and the kids can see some of their volunteer teachers from Sunday school that they haven't seen, and we'll pass out some ice cream sandwiches and popsicles at the very end. But just kind of a fun way for the kids to see some people that they haven't seen in a while, and everybody's safe inside their car. So that's what we're getting ready to do here, I think August 30th.
All right. And thanks for the plug. We did do a webinar about a couple of weeks ago, and then there was a 10 and 10 video that we did probably 2 months ago, 10 ideas in 10 minutes about how you can serve your kids during the lockdown. And so Lauren, bike rides in the parking lot by Sunday school class was, I remember, one of those 10 ideas. And so there's just great ideas out there. If you go to our YouTube channel, Waypoint 55, all one word, you'll see some of those. The pop-up webinar was 35 minutes. And the 10 and 10 is 10 minutes, just to give you some ideas, or at least spur your thinking about some ways that you could serve your kids during this crazy time. Well, let's shift gears now. Those are some of the things that we used to do that we can't do, but let's talk about what are some things that we didn't used to do that COVID has now forced us to do that we'll probably keep doing for quite a while. And so I would think that first on everybody's mind is just our cleaning regimen has changed. And my wife was a children's minister for 25 plus years, and she had it on the calendar. And I don't even know what schedule it was, but they got all the toys out, and people came and cleaned them all and made it a big party. But now that schedule has changed, and so I'm curious number one, how your rhythm for that has changed, and kind of how that's going to look new for each of you. And so we'll change the order this time. We'll go to Kara first at the journey. What's your cleaning regimen going to look like as you regather?
It's gonna fall more on our volunteers. So instead of it just being something that's done midweek when everybody's gone and out of the building, it's something we've created an updated volunteer role and responsibilities, kind of a little addendum. I have to do a little bit of retraining when we first regather so that people know what these new expectations are. So we're trying to order and hoard as many Clorox wipes as we can. And it's going to be the volunteers' job in between each service to wipe down all the common things that have been touched. So like tabletops, chairs, doorknob handles, like light switches, just anything that has been touched. That's going to fall on our volunteers, and we're going to ask them to take care of that for us. And then in our check-in area, we've created a contactless check-in system. And instead of parents logging in and entering in on an iPad, checking in, we're going to have our volunteer greeters being the ones, just the greeters only are going to be checking in people instead of having people touching iPads and computer keyboards and everything. And then we have attached wall-mounted hand sanitizer pumps outside each classroom as well. And there's going to be a volunteer at the door making sure that every child is washing their hands upon entering the classroom. So that's kind of the gist of it for us right now.
Are you able to find wipes? That's the question is, or if you order them, how quickly do they come? I suppose everybody should order them right now for November, I'm guessing, but and I don't know how legit this is, but I know my wife, we used to do a service project for the elementary school near our church, and we would disinfect the kids' desks with shaving cream. And theoretically that disinfects like regular disinfectant, and you can find shaving creams. I don't know if that's an urban legend that we just made up or if it's legit, but it sounds like it could work. So you can find shaving cream at Walmart where you can't find other things. Well, Lauren, what has changed with your cleaning regimen, your rhythm, and procedures?
Sure. So some of it is similar to what Kara said, so I won't repeat that, but trying to add on, what we've decided to do is for well, first of all, let me say we have a cleaning service that is doing like the CDC recommended deep clean every weekend before we meet on Sundays. So that's going to be happening every week, which reduces the amount of cleaning we need to do before and after services. So our focus is going to be on the in-between service time. And what we've done is actually we're putting together teams of 3 volunteers, not the ones that are scheduled that Sunday morning, but those who volunteer specifically for the cleaning crew. And we do already have some people signed up for that. So we're hoping we'll be able to maintain enough that it doesn't fall on our teaching volunteers. But it'll be crews of 3. The goal is that they serve once a month. And in between the services, they have a little checklist of cleaning that they're going to do in each of the different areas where we have our classrooms and our welcome desk and our bathrooms. And it mainly just involves wiping down surfaces that would be touched by a lot of people. And I think I gave you, Tim, the small checklist. So I guess whenever you email those things out to people, if anyone's interested, you can look at that. But what we're using is, well, actually, we put out a call to like everyone in our church saying, if any of you find sanitizing wipes, bring them in, we'll reimburse you, please. So that's how we've been able to stockpile some wipes. But we're also just using CDC approved cleaning products that you can put in a spray bottle and just a roll of paper towels. Our cleaning volunteers are wearing masks and gloves. So yeah, it's mostly just wiping down those high touch surfaces and making sure the bathrooms get disinfected between services.
And Lynn, now you guys have been open, so you guys know what it's like to try and clean. I'm curious, Lynn, you can tell us, and then we'll backfill after you're done, but I'm curious, did you guys extend the time between services at First Christian to allow for cleaning to happen between services. The church I was at, not this past Sunday, they only had one service, but they extended an extra half hour between services for cleaning. Have you guys done that? And how has your
Yeah, so,
cleaning regimen changed?
well, initially we had 3 services and now we're down to 2 with a half hour in between, which gives us ample time to do the cleaning. But our cleaning really hasn't changed so much because we have a weekday preschool that meets. So there were pretty strict guidelines in place before COVID. We use their bleach and water solution to clean, and we just spray the toys down. Like I said, we're limiting the toys too, so our cleaning time doesn't take that long. We just spray everything, wipe it off, and with only 8 kids, it doesn't take too long to clean. So, and it's not as different as you might think, because my background is nursing. I was a pediatric nurse, so I'm pretty a stickler for cleanliness. So we've always done that. We've wiped down the services after the kids leave, and in between services we wipe the toys down. So I can't tell you that it's changed much for us because we've done about the same. But what we do on Sunday, which we haven't done before, is our housekeeping services here, and they go around and wipe down doorknobs and the places that you wouldn't think to wipe down. But she's always wiping down doorknobs, and then our computer screens, they clean them after everyone uses them. We're trying to go to the contactless computer check-in, and we do have that in place, but our parents have not completely embraced it because it is a check-in that you start at home, and then you just come in to the facility and you hit submit and it prints your ticket. So hopefully we'll get that when we get more people coming, and they can do that and they won't be touching the screens at all. So, but right now we have self-serve, and they're still checking in. But like I said, we're wiping them down. So.
Well, and how many weeks have you all been open with kids, Lynn?
Since Memorial Day weekend,
Okay.
May
So,
24th. Yeah, May 24th.
So June and July, more than 2 months.
Yeah.
And has the kids number stayed the same, or has it grown?
So I can't remember the dates, but in North Carolina, when masks became mandatory in public, our numbers went down again. Children's ministry, they had around 25, 26, and it dropped off again. And pre-COVID, of course, we were up in the 70s in children's ministry in elementary. So I think wearing the mask had a lot to do with it at that point, because I think, yeah. So,
well, that answers one of our
one
of our questions someone asked, but I also want to answer another question a couple of people asked, and that is what we're in the virtual learning survival packs. And in your follow-up email tomorrow, I will send out a document with a link to what was in that was in our pop-up webinar that we did, or our 10 and 10. I can't remember which it was, but there's a survival pack for teachers, which included chocolate and those gel masks that you can put in the freezer and a bunch of things like that. Same thing for parents and then for kids. And so we'll include a sheet of those ideas for you in your follow-up email. Let me see, those are answered. If you got other questions, please feel free to chime in, and we can try to answer them here live. And I do think it's time. A couple of you have mentioned that you've updated your policies documents. And I think this is a great time. Normally you're training and people reviewing your policy documents, it's like pulling teeth to try and get them to look at that for any compelling reason. But this gives you a compelling reason to say, hey, we've had to update this. Let's look at it. And so I think that's an opportunity that we normally wouldn't want to fight through, but I think people are going to be more willing to look at them because of this. And so that's really good that you're doing that. Well, what are some other things besides cleaning that you weren't doing pre-COVID that you now are going to do and probably going to keep doing it for some period of time? Anybody can chime in there. And maybe I'm curious about communication, how you didn't necessarily used to communicate in a certain way that now you are.
Social media for me is different. I mean, we are on social media, but not to the extent that we've had to be on social media since COVID.
Hmm.
That's something I've always wanted to do, but never really did it until I was forced to do it. So I guess that's a good thing, but
All right.
uh,
Kara or Lauren, anything else? How has communication with parents changed? That's probably going to continue moving out of COVID.
Yeah, I can share a couple of things. One of the things I was thinking about as I was preparing for this webinar was just how much, or I guess how lucky I was with us being a smaller church. So much of the time I could just catch parents in the hallway or when they came to pick up their kids. And, it was just so easy to have that face-to-face time with parents every week. And that's really changed. And, I just took it for granted, I guess, that every Sunday I'd be seeing all these kids that I know and love, and I could ask them about their weeks and catch up with them. I really do think I took all of that very much for granted and felt like my ministry was really a Sunday morning ministry, which isn't really how I should have been thinking about it ever. And this has really forced me out of that little box. And now I have to think about it like a 24/7 ministry, any way that I can get to people, anyway. So yeah, we're using our social media as well. We have a YouTube channel and Facebook page, but even thinking about other things, we have a team of a few of us who have agreed to just keep calling our children and families and our volunteers as well, because we don't want to lose touch with those volunteers. They need to know that they're still appreciated. So we spend a lot of time every week just making phone calls, or people who prefer texting, we text. And if we can chat with the kids, we do, or at least the parents and the volunteers. We've been doing a lot of handwritten cards as well and mailing those out. And once again, we have a team of us, it's not all me, a team of us doing this. We also have put together a couple of times this summer, I don't know how well you can see this, but just little goodie bags for the kids that have like Play-Doh, small toys from Oriental Trading Company. I like to stick a piece of candy in there. I don't know if the parents like that, but and then what we do is actually hand deliver those with masks and gloves on. And we try to, by hand delivering them, we do get to actually see, a lot of people do answer the door, and we stand 6 feet back, of course, but we can at least say hi and see people in person that way, even if it's for 2 minutes. So yeah, those are some of the things that we've been doing.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Kara, how are you communicating different? But we do have a question, so I'm curious if you would answer this, and maybe we can backfill with either Lynn or Lauren. But how are you training your volunteers virtually, or connect with your volunteers? Are you meeting on site and staying socially distanced? Are you training virtually, or a combination? What are you doing with that at the Journey?
So we're not doing any volunteer training right now. We have all of our new training procedures in place, and our hope is the first couple of times we meet that we can have volunteers only for our first 2 Sundays. So those first 2 Sunday services, the volunteers will come, they'll get to enjoy an in-person worship service, and then we'll break out into our smaller ministry groups to talk to them about changes that need to be made in their specific ministry area. And for us, that would be in the kids' classrooms and those updated cleaning procedures and health policies and everything like that. So not a lot of training going on right now, but something we've been doing that has been just really amazing to sit back and watch take place is our communication with our volunteers. Kind of like what Lauren was saying, I just took it for granted on Sunday mornings. I have a few minutes to just pop my head into each classroom and check in and kind of get a feel for how each of the volunteers were doing, what's going on in their lives, making sure they had what they needed for material-wise for that Sunday's class. And we also held a volunteer huddle every Sunday morning before the first service. And so the volunteers could come and share prayer requests, and we could update them on anything that they needed to be aware of. And then we also took communion together. So not having that time with them was really sad not to see them on a weekly basis. But we have a ministry model that we implemented about 2 years ago, called the coaching model. It's based off of a book. So in each of our Journey Kids classrooms, we have 2 coaches, is the term that we use, and they're the leaders for all of the volunteers in that classroom. So when we were meeting, they were the ones that were training our new volunteers. They were the ones checking in each Sunday, just reviewing the classroom itinerary for that day, and then going in between services to refresh the room, make sure everything was set and ready to go for the new group. So we asked those coaches if they would be willing to kind of shift gears once we entered the pandemic, and instead of having that normal responsibility that they had on Sunday mornings in person, if they would be willing to stay in touch with the volunteers in their classroom. So with the 2 coaches, each coach split the volunteers in their classroom into 2 groups, and they were each responsible for half of the volunteers. And on an every 2-week basis, they call them, email them, text them, send them a card. And it's been amazing. These ladies have blown me away. They're exchanging prayer requests. They've organized meal trains when somebody gets sick or has a baby. And then when they're aware of a bigger need that somebody on staff needs to step in and help out with, and they're able to communicate that with me, and then we can jump in and help as needed. So it's not anything that I had ever imagined, but it's one of those things that just kind of evolved out of necessity. And it's amazing. I feel like the relationships between the volunteers and their classroom coaches, and then in turn me, has really grown a lot deeper, even though we're not seeing each other in person.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the tremendous opportunity we have with COVID, is anytime there's adversity, there's opportunity. And this whole season has kind of forced every ministry area to kind of rethink, what have we been doing and why were we doing it, and what haven't we been doing. And so I love all the thinking and deliberating that each of you have done with your ministry teams, and how you're leading the way and trying to really pastor your kids and your volunteers and your parents well through this season and beyond. So that's really encouraging to see. And so I want to thank you for your time here to share with our folks, and for those that will view after the fact on our YouTube channel, on ways that they can do that. For those of you who are on our webinar tonight, I want to remind you that there will be a follow-up email with some documents that these ladies have provided for some of these policies and procedures and checklists that I'm going to send to all of you, that you can take a look at, and you can email them as well if you've got a specific question about training or cleaning or any of those kind of things that we've talked about. You can email them for a little bit more input. And so I want to finish up tonight just by sharing the screen as usual, always giving thanks to our ministry sponsor, Mid-Atlantic Christian University. But want to remind you that we do have on our YouTube channel, the sister webinar to this that we did last month, New Realities for Youth Ministry. And we had a panel of 3 youth ministers from all over the region as well. It was really well done. And so I'd encourage you to see that as well, or forward it to the person from our YouTube channel to the person at your church that oversees your youth programming, and how we can pastor our teens and our sponsors during this time. And then our next 2 webinars, for our regular monthly webinars, next month in September is for your prayer teams, a prayer equipping event. So that is coming up mid-September. And then in October is for our mission teams and how you can do mission trips well. And so we're really glad that you have joined us tonight. And more than that, I think all of us are so thankful that anybody that's listening here tonight has a passion for pastoring your kids and their parents and their families during this time. We can't take this off, but we really have an opportunity to make an impact in a way that we never have before, if we're willing to kind of open our eyes and see the opportunities in front of us. So ladies, thanks for your input tonight. And for all of us who are on our webinar this evening, hopefully we'll see you at another webinar soon that we would do, whether our regular monthly ones or our pop-up webinars that we've done about once a month as well. Have a great evening. All right, goodbye, ladies.
Bye.